Hello and welcome to the College Investor Audio Show. We're so glad you're hanging out with us today. Let's take a look at the Workforce Pell Grant. Eligibility, programs, and timeline. Great topic for today. Before we get to it, just a quick reminder, anytime you hear a topic on the podcast, you can always see the article associated with it at thecollegeinvestor.com. Inside there are all kinds of amazing resources, links, and everything you could possibly want to know about the topic. You can also follow us on social media. Pretty much wherever you are, we're there too. Just search for The College Investor, and you can ask us questions, get to know us. We'd love to help you along wherever you are in your money journey. We are there for you. All right, let's take a look at this. So Workforce Pell is a new legal pathway within the Pell Grant program that's intended to cover short-term workforce training, the kinds of programs that historically have fallen outside of Pell rules because they're just too short. So under the new rules, eligible programs generally have to run at least 8 weeks, but also fewer than 15 weeks, and include 150 to 599 clock hours, or just certain credit hour equivalents. The Department of Education has emphasized that Workforce Pell Awards are still Pell Grants, but with a different set of program eligibility rules. Not a totally separate pot of money. That matters because it ties Workforce Pell to Pell's broader budget pressures and to how Pell eligibility is tracked over a student's lifetime. Okay, how big could the program be? Let's take a look. Federal officials have cautioned that it's kind of hard to estimate because a lot of short-term programs just aren't well captured in federal data sets today. In a Department of Education slide deck, you can view that slide deck if you'd like at thecollegeinvestor.com. ED suggested the number of eligible programs could range from several hundred to a few thousand, depending on state decisions and how the federal rules land. Who qualifies for this Workforce Pell, you may ask? Well, Workforce Pell largely keeps Pell's familiar student-level rules. You'll still need to complete the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, and have financial need as measured by the FAFSA's aid calculation. A notable expansion, too. Bachelor's degree holders. One of the most significant changes is that Workforce Pell can be available to those who've already earned a bachelor's degree, a group that typically can't receive a standard Pell Grant. With limited exceptions, of course. Multiple policy summaries describe this as a key feature meant to support re-skilling. How important that is nowadays. You generally can't double dip at the same time either. Workforce Pell is structured so students are not expected to receive a regular Pell Grant and Workforce Pell concurrently for the same period of enrollment. Makes sense? That's consistent with how Pell is typically administered across overlapping enrollments. Okay, how much is the Workforce Pell Grant? Magical question. Workforce Pell Awards are expected to be prorated, meaning students in short programs generally wouldn't receive anything close to the maximum, right, for a full academic year. The maximum Pell Grant for 26 and 27 is $7,395. But Workforce Pell amounts would typically be smaller because the program length is capped and the award is adjusted based on time and hours, of course. As such, even when Workforce Pell covers tuition, students might still need a plan for living expenses, transportation, childcare, tools, uniforms, licensing fees, and time off work, etc. Those are costs that can really make or break short-term training. What workforce programs do qualify for this? So, this is where Workforce Pell becomes much stricter than normal Pell Grants. The program has multiple layers of requirements, and states are positioned as the frontline approvers of which programs meet the federal standards. Program length and program types. So to qualify, a program generally must be 150 to 599 clock hours in 8 to 15 weeks, or approved credit hour equivalents. Be offered by a Title IX eligible institution, a college that can participate in federal student aid. ED lists likely eligible program types like nursing assistant, aide, phlebotomy, all that type of stuff, EMT, paramedic, commercial driver's license or CDL in vehicle operation, truck driver basically, skilled trades and career, technical, welding, automotive mechanics, fire prevention, fire safety, computer and information sciences, those types of programs. Childcare and early childhood pathways, those are also likely eligible too. Let's talk about the credential requirement. Programs have to lead to a recognized post-secondary credential and one that is portable, valued by more than one employer, and also stackable, which connects to further education, such as another credential or another degree. Some exceptions might apply for occupations with only one recognized credential. A CDL, for example, is often cited. The goal here is to avoid traps or degrees that don't help beyond a specific employer. The labor market requirement. States have to determine that programs prepare students for high-skill, high-wage, or in-demand occupations, which typically are tied to state workforce board lists. States will need to maintain public lists and update them on a regular cycle. Let's talk about the outcomes requirements, too. There will be an outcomes requirement for workforce Pell programs that require them to produce positive ROI outcomes. The drafts approach thresholds like 70% completion and 70% job placement, with definitions and measurement details evolving through rule making. The value requirement, too. So beyond just completion and placement, the proposed framework also points toward a value measure comparing earnings outcomes against program costs and a poverty line benchmark. This is one of the most technical and contested pieces, too. And some groups have noted education department officials asked for more time to consider how cost and earnings should be operationalized. Delivery format matters as well. The negotiated rulemaking decisions and discussions also indicated that certain formats are not going to be allowed, like correspondence courses and some alternative delivery models, though final definitions will depend on the final rule. Here's what this means for people looking for career training. Workforce Pell could be a major help for people who want faster training tied to a job, especially working adults, parents, career changers who can't commit to a multi-year program, all that stuff. So, if you're a student, remember, file the FAFSA early for the year you plan to enroll and start a short list of programs that match in-demand fields where you live. If you want to move quickly in 2026, target programs that already exist today. The framework contemplates that programs generally must have been operating before approval because brand new programs might not qualify in the first wave. And that is our show for today. Hope it was helpful to you and maybe gave you some ideas on some cool future endeavors you might be looking at. If you want to find out more, dive into this article. There's more resources and everything you could possibly want to know at thecollegeinvestor.com. Thanks so much for stopping by today, and we'll talk to you again real soon.